Okay, so functional analysis. Uh, so there's different levels of functional analysis, and there's a functional assessment. When we talk about functional assessment, that covers any kind of assessment that you're looking at, trying to determine what the function is. So that's indirect assessment, and right, indirect assessment is like questionnaires and parent and care provider interviews, things like that. You're not directly observing the behavior. That's indirect assessment. And then functional assessment can be that's all observation based, right? And there's descriptive assessment where we're observing the student or client within the environment in which the natural environment, and we're just looking at that ABC data, right? So the antecedents, the behavior, and then the consequence, and we're recording that. And then there's functional analysis, and that requires actual manipulation of variables. And what I didn't know is that there's all these different types of functional analysis. And really, what functional analysis means is that you're just manipulating those variables. So in my mind, I thought it was going to be like, okay, we put this kid in a completely like environment that's completely void of anything and everything, and then we, it's very like scientific, and they're kind of in this white room, and we're giving them one variable at a time, and you know what I mean, and it's very right, but it doesn't have to be like that, actually. That is like one type of functional analysis. But for the most part, many are not like that. And so they're looking at right, those environmental variables that are making that behavior contingent, or if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Okay. So let me see. So the characteristics of functional analysis is that you're directly observing it, you're manipulating the antecedents and the consequences, and then you're measuring behavior under the test control conditions. Right? So the functions that you're assessing are you always assess attention, sensory stimulation,
right,
and escape. I also didn't know that the results for tangible can be very, you don't always get a good reading from that. So,
right, those are very skewed results.
Right.
Very skewed results.
Yeah, so you don't always assess tangible unless you like a descriptive assessment said that tangible was a possible cause, then you would assess it. But you don't just always assess tangible. Because you can get like a false positive by just bringing in a tangible item. So this class went over specifically the how you assessed all of these things, and so with where am I at? Okay. When you look at your control environment, that's a play environment. So yeah, it's play. So when you've got your client and you're doing your functional analysis, you start with a play what do you call it, environment, and so you're giving them attention, you're using there's no demands, It's like an enriched environment, and then so let me back up. You start the assessment in the alone condition.
Okay.
And the alone condition, there's no one is with them. They're in this room alone.
And you just heard like a variety of things out?
No, they're alone.
Oh.
They're alone. And that's what I didn't understand. I mean,
I don't like that.
If you left someone alone, well, so what it's supposed to tell you is like, if they're not escaping from anything and they're not trying to get attention from someone, and if they're not, and if no one's there to socially mediate their tangible item, then the only thing would be left would be a sensory function. So if they're alone and they're still engaging in this behavior, then it must be an automatic reinforcement. So it's a sensory function. So you start in the alone condition and you observe them, and if there's no behavior, then you move on to attention. So what you do in the attention condition is you start by giving them attention, and then you withdraw it.
Okay.
And you wait to see if a behavior happens. And if the target behavior happens, then you give them attention. You say, "Oh, don't do that," or you can, or say, "Oh, you'll hurt yourself," something like that. And then you stop again and you go back to reading whatever. And then you wait for the behavior to happen again. And then if nothing happens, you move on to the next condition. And the next condition would be a demand, a work demand.
Okay.
So then you stop ignoring them, but you ask them to do something, and you see if the rates of behavior change with that. And then you go into a play condition where they're getting attention, they're playing with not a high interest item, but some kind of item. They're not bored or anything. But they're not needing attention or escape.
Okay.
And then, so from there you just look. Well, this class really went over all these procedures of like, what condition you do first, what condition you do second, and how you do that. And then, so if you did a descriptive assessment and you decided that okay, it might be the iPad, then you would do a tangible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
At the end, and so then you would give the kid the iPad, take away the iPad, see if there's behaviors, give the iPad back, take away the iPad. So it's kind of always this reversal of the assessment. So sometimes you do these functional analysis and you find that they're kind of all over the place. Like the behavior happened at the same rate across all the conditions. And that is called an undifferentiated outcome.
Right,
So,
because at that point, like you can't determine what the function is.
Right, you can't determine. It's undifferentiated. So you look at the possible reasons for an undifferentiated. And the first thing you might look at is the function of the behavior might be automatic reinforcement, right? So it happens in the alone condition. It happened in the attention condition. It happened in other conditions. Then it might be that the client is getting automatically reinforced internally. It could also mean that there's multiple controls. That the behavior serves multiple functions. So that's an option too.
Right. How many different things are going on, or
right? Like one typography functions, and I've worked with kids like this before. and I've gotten very frustrated with the BCBA because they're telling me what I need to do when a kid behaves like this, and I want it, you know, it works. They're doing that behavior in the classroom because of automatic, but when they're with me, the behavior serves a different function, and so
exactly
right. So it's not function-based intervention anymore. I'm just pulling it out of my ass, and it's not working for me because
right.
It's a different function. So that's an option too. It could be also that you fucked up your variables.
Right.
Yeah, right. So it could be
right.
that you're assessing the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to look at like how long you've given reinforcement for.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that this class set talks about is how we like to put behaviors into these little boxes of like 4 different functions, but it's really hard to actually do, right? And even if we look at attention, not all attention is the same. So
right.
just because in the analysis you're testing the attention of whoever's assessing them, and it turns out they're not exhibiting that behavior, that doesn't mean it's not attention. It's not serving an attention function. It's just not, the kid just doesn't want that person's attention. And I work with someone like that too. It's like, they'll say, when he was at the hospital, they said the behavior wasn't attention based. Like, but they didn't assess the dad. This kid's behavior, he's actually biting himself, drawing blood, he's bruised.
Aww.
I know, it's really awful. But when he starts getting agitated and stuff, the dad actually comes and starts talking to him and rubbing him. And
so he's getting positive reinforcement for all that negative behavior from that.
It's specific to the dad. The attention is specific to the dad. So I thought that, that was, that made so much sense to me.
Right.
That you can have like a false negative or false positive because you just didn't assess the right kind of tangible or the right kind of escape, or a person, a client could be escaping from one person but not the person who's assessing, or seeking attention from one person but not the person that's assessing.
Right. I have a student like that who is, her behavior, the function of it is attention based when the male staff are in the room. When the female staff in the room, it's escape based.
Right. So I'm recording a video right now. Hi, go. He's attention.
So is mine.
Yeah. So so it was interesting because they really, and I had always thought that you don't do a functional assessment, a functional analysis on SIB, because you don't want, it's unethical to actually try to trigger self-injurious behavior.
Right.
Right. But these people are saying, no, you absolutely should. Because
I would do more of an ABC assessment. Like if you're doing ABC data on it, I would pull my assessment or my analysis off of that as like, all right, well, what's not what's causing it, but what happened before.
Right. But with it, you
antecedent, that's the word.
Yeah, but they're